Howdy, folks. Welcome back to the Extend channel. It is my honor to share today's video with you because it's super important. This is part two of chronic disease, what is killing us. And if you didn't already know, we're going to be talking about seed oils. And I'm not going to throw any graphs and charts at you because I inundated you with the part one of this video. But I just want to talk to you about what seed oils are, what is historically, what is their use, uh, why do we consume them, and some of the health pros and cons, and are they actually considered bad? And if so, why? And the last thing I want to discuss is what products they're in and, well, the processing of them and what products they're in. So, what are seed oils? Seed oils historically fall under the term of a vegetable oil. You'll probably know it more so as that. Canola oil, soybean, corn oil, sunflower, safflower oil. And guys, these, even though they're known as vegetable oils, none of those things that I just mentioned are true vegetables. They're not. So don't be fooled when you get to the store and you're going to buy, let's say you go to buy canola oil and it says vegetable oil. That's not a vegetable. Canola is not a vegetable oil. Neither is soybean or corn or sunflower or safflower. And where do you find it? Well, you find it in every freaking thing: salad dressings, marinades, chips, cookies, cakes, crackers, frozen foods, processed foods. And if you go to Whole, I'm going to challenge you to do this. If you go to Whole Foods, don't shop the perimeter. Well, shop the perimeter, but just for the intents of this video, go to the middle, any aisle, whatever, frozen snacks, whatever, and grab something off the shelf. And tell me if you don't see canola oil, soybean oil, sunflower oil, sunflower oil. I don't care what it is, a marinade, a dressing, a frozen food, anything. This is Whole Foods, guys. This is what is the biggest problem with America today. You're shopping in Whole Foods thinking you're getting good stuff. Don't think for 1 second that everything within Whole Foods is healthy. Most of the stuff is not, it's crap. But they can charge a higher price for it and slap a healthy label on it and you buy it. It's not the case at all. Did you know that 40% of our calories from the average American's diet, 40% of our calorie intake comes from seed oils? 40%. We didn't have this 100 years ago. We didn't. So when did they start? Well, in the 18th and 19th centuries, I'm sorry, 19th and 20th centuries, they began as oil-based, or they began using them in, oh my goodness, pop-ups, sorry. They began using them in industrial processes like varnishes, soaps, uh, machinery, lubricants. And since somebody got a bright idea in France, some joker decides he's going to make margarine with this now food product. So, and that, like I said, that was the 19th and 20th century. And then let's transition to the mid 20th century. We saw a significant increase in our diet, the American diet, with the use of seed oils, particularly in the rise of fast food and processed food industries. Why? Because they want to make stuff shelf stable. The longer they can keep it on the shelf, the less frequent they have to make it and ship it across the country. And it can sit there even if you don't buy it. It's going to be good until you do buy it. So again, seed oils, guys, are common in most foods in a grocery store. And why? I mean, they're very favorable to cost effectiveness, versatility, rancidity, and stability. I want to say I'm trying to think about this for a second. It has to be largely due to the invention of this. I'm talking about the Industrial Revolution. It had to be largely due to the new extraction methods. Because what does that do? If you have an easier extraction method, it allows for easier processing of the seeds, right? So if you can process something easier, you're going to grow more of it. So you have increased availability, which brings the cost down. So thank you, Industrial Revolution. The next problem with the increased consumption in the American diet is the marketing and the misinformation. I want to say outright lies, but I'm not going to say that. Even though I kind of feel like you have to read between the lines. So remember back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, not that I was around in the 50s, but you can read historical accounts. And they were trying to, the CDC and the FDA, they were all trying to promote heart healthy. So these concerns that were driven by heart disease and you're eating too much saturated fats, you have to find something that's healthier than these alternatives. So introduce seed oils. And the problem, guys, with seed oils, other than the health concern, is this. These seed oils they're taxpayer funded commodities. And what does that mean? Well, the government takes our taxes that we pay when we work, they take our taxes and they give it to big agriculture and big food to grow wheat crops, corn crops, soybean crops. They're taxpayer funded commodity crops, which is controversial in itself because the government is taking our money, our taxes, and giving it to farms, big agriculture to grow these crops. And then they turn around, put it on the shelf, and we go pay for it again. Wait a second. What? Yes. So how does that add up? So we're buying a product that we just previously funded, which, by the way, are covered, thank you, big agriculture, big pharma, covered in glyphosate pesticides, which are hormone disruptors. So we have three of the biggest industries in the world right there involved in supplying food to us. The government pays big agriculture and big food to grow the crops and douse the crops with glyphosates, which are hormone disruptors, and they also disrupt the soil. And then big pharma gets us all at the end to make us better from the toxic hexane and atrazine glyphosates that they're introducing into not only the products that we're buying that we've paid for twice on the shelf, but that we are eating and it's making us sick. So then we get on the healthcare treadmill and can't get off of. Not to mention the soil, guys, that they're destroying. They're degrading the soil by never giving it a break, which you have to give soil a break. So they're stripping all of the nutrients, introducing all these toxins where nothing can grow unless you dump thousands and thousands of pounds of fertilizer on it, which further is toxic to us. So then we get sick from the toxins and you're back into the healthcare system if you've never been on, or if you've been on it, you're back into it and you can't get out of it. So then we have food collapse because of soil degradation. And what do you want to bet? Sometime in the future, I guarantee this is going to happen. I guarantee it's going to happen. It's going to be like trying to grow fertile, green, healthy, nutrient-filled crops on beach sand. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. But yet that's what our soil is now. All right, so let's move on. Why are they considered bad? Well, seed oils are incredibly high in omega-6s. And omega-6s, even though we want a higher omega-6 ratio, 2 to 1, 4 to 1-ish, not 20 to 1 like we all have, But if we have that really out of whack ratio, we're going to have a very high systemic internal inflammation problem, which is the driver of so many diseases, which is the research is there. So what happens when you have all of these omega 6s in your body is they're quickly, very sneakily squeezing through the cell membrane. And remind me, squeezing through the cell membrane, that's another thing I'm going to come back to. But so that allows them to compete with the other healthier forms of monounsaturated fats that we need. So what does that do? You have the more of the omega-6s competing with the healthier forms of fat. So what are they doing? They're changing the structural integrity of our cells, which means they're changing the integrity of our body, of our DNA. Guys, if they are squeezing through, the cell membrane, they're leaking out into places that they shouldn't be, causing inflammation. Inflammation is the number one driver of cardiac disease, neurodegenerative diseases, Alzheimer's, dementia, cancers, especially hormone disrupting cancers like breast cancers, and diabetes. What do you think would happen if we took all seed oils out of our diet? We would probably not have as many chronic diseases as we have now. Let me tell you another problem with our healthcare system. Our healthcare system, we spend per year $4.5 trillion on our healthcare system. 3.5, you better be sitting down for this, $3.5 trillion is spent on managing chronic disease. Not research, not finding a cure, managing chronic disease, 3.5 trillion. That's 75% of the amount that we spend total on healthcare. Total on healthcare. 3.5 trillion on diabetes, cancer, heart disease, and neurodegenerative diseases, the four that you're probably going to die from if you don't get your shit together. That's not me saying. That's the FDA and the CDC telling you that, mostly the CDC. They're not going to tell you why, but they'll tell you that's especially based on how much money they spend on managing these conditions, 3.5 trillion. You know what our Defense Department budget is? 800 to 900 billion. 3.5 trillion or 4.5 total healthcare versus 800 billion for defense. I probably don't even need to say anything about that. So what else is the problem with seed oils? Well, microplastics. If you look at coconut oil, which is a good oil, by the way, or avocado oil, these are mostly stored in bottles or glass containers. But if you look at heart-healthy vegetable oil, canola, sunflower, safflower, you know them all, they're going to be mostly stored in plastic bottles. So what's happening? Microplastics are leaching from these bottles into the oil. When you eat it, it's into your body. These are forever toxins. They don't come out. You don't detox from microplastics. Not only are they in plastic bottles, but they're usually light sensitive bottles that allow, when the light comes through, they're allowing oxidation of the oil, which further makes it more inflammatory and damaging to our cells when we consume it, which means zero nutritional value and a hell of a lot of toxic stuff that's going into your body. And a minute ago, I was telling you about hormone disrupting cancers. Well, the other problem with our healthcare system, and you can put two and two together if you want, you can probably count. Our puberty is declining, early onset puberty is declining. It's such that it is now considered an epidemic for the last 6 years. And the rise in hormone-driven cancers, which I previously touched on. In addition to sustained decline in fertility and sperm counts. Why do you think IVF is such a big thing now, especially for political candidates? So plastic and pesticides, guys, they can very, very easily, even in small amounts, disrupt estrogen receptor signaling. And then what they're doing when they disrupt is they create a pro-estrogen environment in our body. So we're having way more estrogen. Guys too. Guys have estrogen just like women have testosterone. So we're having a way more estrogenic environment, which promotes cancers. And we need our other hormones, testosterone, progesterone, to level out estrogen to make things homeostatic. We need homeostasis in our body for things to work. And right now it's not homeostatic at all. And you can think atrazine in the form of 70 million pounds per year, used here in the US, but yet it's banned in the other countries. This directly converts testosterone to estrogen for women and men. And atrazine is on all of these UPFs, ultra processed foods, and vegetables if you're not eating organic. I'm going to try to post it here. And if I point to it and it's not here, you'll know why, but I'm going to put it right here if I can find it after I edit the video, because I got to include a couple of things to the video before I post it. But the processing of seed oils versus olive oil, avocado oil, and coconut oil are safe. They are not seed oils. I highly encourage you to use them. So let's just use olive oil because most people are familiar with that and have used it and probably currently do use it. The difference in extraction methods for these seed oils versus olive oils. Seed oil extraction very simply comes from the seed. You extract it from the seed. Olive oil comes from the pulp, not the seed. So you squeeze the olive, it drips out. You squeeze the seeds, that's not going to happen. So to get the oil from the seed, there's a lot of things that go on. First and foremost, they press it. And this is going to be in the video that I posted. They press it with this ginormous press, and it squeezes out seeds. So then they wash it in hexane, which is another toxin. So when they're washing it in this hexane, which is called chemical solvent processing, they're introducing hexane into the oil that they've just pressed. So then they heat it to high heat. Then they bleach it to lighten it because it's dark as hell. And then they put deodorizer on it because it stinks like hell. So if, operative word, if there were any at all nutrients in the seed oils, they're gone because they used chemical solvents like hexane. They've used super high heat to further refine it. So then they bleach it. Then they put some deodorant on it. And then they stick it in a bottle and they send it to you, and it goes and sits on a shelf for who knows how long before you buy it. But it's okay because it's shelf stable. And then they stick it, by the way, they put it in a plastic bottle. So what you have is liquid poison, essentially, not only in the liquid oil itself, but in the bottle, microplastics. Guys, plastics are in everything. Microplastics, they're in our air, they're in our sheets, they're in our phone cases, they are in drink containers, they're in our water supply, they're in our homes. Again, plastics and pesticides are creating a estrogen dominant environment in our body. Gotta fix this, gotta fix it. So to recap, press it, heat it, wash it, bleach it, deodorize it, stick it in a bottle that's full of microplastics that's going to leach into your body. Or you can squeeze an olive and get oil and use that. So you have rich olive oil, avocado oil, and coconut oil are all pressed from the pulp. And they have so many bioactive and available compounds. And they're super rich in polyphenols. They're super rich in antioxidants, which are good for you. Whereas seed oils, zero, liquid poison. Please do not use these. The only benefit, it's not even a benefit. I don't want to call it that. And please don't think this outweighs all the other bad stuff that I said. By the way, you're never, FDA, CDC, they're not going to tell you this, by the way. They have a higher smoke point, meaning you can heat them higher before they turn rancid. What does it freaking matter if they're already rancid and toxic? Who cares? When these seed oils, guys, by the way, which are used in most restaurants to fry your food in, they already come to you rancid and oxidized and full of just crap. But when they toss them in a fryer and then toss your French fries in there or your fried pickles or whatever, they're even further rapidly oxidizing because of the high heat. Because it's going to, I guarantee you, what they're frying is over 400 degrees, which is usually around the set heat point for these oils. All right, direct effects on you and me. What do those include? How much time do you have? If you've looked at any of my stuff, you know that my favorite thing to talk about, because I think it's most important when it comes to overall health, is inflammation caused by metabolic instability. Remember when I talked about the cell membrane and it leaking through? That creates inflammation. The studies are in, guys. Their studies are there. Thousands and hundreds of thousands of studies on every type of systemic and internal inflammation you can possibly imagine. Inflammation is a direct driver of cardiac disease, neurodegenerative disease, cancer, and diabetes. And the studies are there that link consumption of omega-6s to chronic inflammation and to obesity and to the other chronic diseases that I just told you about. Don't fall for seed oils being good for heart health. They are poison for heart health. They directly impact metabolic syndrome, which is insulin resistance, hyperinsulinemia, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, type 2 diabetes. All of those things are because of inflammation. All of those things. I'm not saying there can't be some genetic anomaly within your body that causes you to have some sort of metabolic condition, but mostly metabolic syndrome is linked to inflammation. And if you remember from part one, the CDC said, oh, you got the American population drinks too much, they don't exercise enough, they eat terrible diets, and they smoke. So what did we do? We fixed all of that. And I showed you the charts and the graphs. Alcohol consumption and smoking, down, 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 down. Good food, exercise, up, 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 up. So we corrected all four of those things that they said was the driver of the four horsemen of chronic disease. We corrected all that, but yet cancer is higher, obesity is higher, diabetes is higher, $3.5 trillion on chronic disease. You tell me if you think they're telling you the truth. And actually, this is equally as, if not more frightening. What's today, the 17th? 6 days ago, I believe it was. American Academy for Pediatrics came out with a study that said sometimes diet and exercise don't work for children. So we recommend that they get on Ozempic. So Big Pharma who is a driver in subsidizing these crops that are causing the seed oils. If your kid is not on Ozempic, they lose. So what do you think they're going to tell you? Disease, obesity, disease for kids, sometimes, most of the time, cannot be fixed by diet and exercise. Therefore, they need to be on Ozempic for life. That was what the study said. I'm going to put it right here. I'll put it in the description too, so you can see it yourself. It just came out. And by the way, you've heard me say this, and I'm going to try and say it every video that I make. If you ever search for yourself, I use PubMed a lot, but if you go through the abstract, you go all the way to the bottom and you look for, after reference says, it says conflict of interest. And it will tell you, the author has to disclose if they got paid, who paid them, and who it is that paid them. It's a travesty, guys. You have to pay attention. So, seed oils, processed snacks, margarine, commercial dressings, fast food, frozen meals, baked goods, cookies, crackers, snacks, even the healthy brands. Read your labels. Anything other than coconut oil, MCT oil, avocado oil, olive oil, I would stay away from. If it were me, I would stay away from it, and I do. And don't forget, guys, seed oils can also be found in beauty products and skincare products. So I hope this was helpful. I hope this was informative. And as always, if you have questions for me, leave them in the comments. And guys, stay vigilant, stay alert, because they're wanting us sick and dependent. Don't fall for it. I hope you have a beautiful day, and I'll see you next time.